Welcome to Functionally Speaking, the podcast where two clinicians share one brain cell and way too many opinions.
I'm Laura, your mineral-obsessed dietitian who gets fired up about gut health, metabolism, and fertility, with enough sass to keep it interesting and enough nuance to keep it real.
And I'm Danielle, a physician assistant obsessed with gut health, hormones, and calling out bullshit.
We're here for the nuance, the hot takes, the facts your certification skipped over, and the occasional spiral into chaos.
If you're a health coach, practitioner, or clinician who's slightly functional, just like our mitochondria in our recording process, you're in the right place.
We're not here to sugarcoat the science or pretend there's one right way to do this work. We're doing it our way, unfiltered, slightly feral, and always with love for the humans we serve. Let's get into it.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You guys are all welcome for being graced with my amazing, beautiful singing voice, just like Dustin from Stranger Things, which you don't understand that reference, as I have
no idea what you're talking about.
Which makes me sad. I have just learned. I have to tell you this. I'll tell you about it later. But like, if someone knocked on my door and was like, "I want to talk about Stranger Things," I'd be like, "Come on in." Like, do you want to murder me? That's how.
I would say absolutely not. I don't answer my door, and I don't even live in Utah.
Dude, most of the time it is. It's
who you think it is. Yes,
it is. Yes, if you know, you know, and it does happen. So, anyways, Here we are. Welcome back to Functionally Speaking, the clinical pod that spirals responsibly and is only semi-functional, just like our mitochondrial recording process. If you are interested in learning more about the sponsors of the show, which are the two humans in front of you or in your ears, which we are Unconventional Collaborative, you can go to unconventionalcollaborative.com and learn more about our interdisciplinary virtual mastermind. We take everyone as long as you are a health professional. So it's not just RDs, PAs, NPs, whatever. We have myofunctional therapists, we have dentists, we have physical therapists, we have mental health therapists, coaches, trainers. We have the whole gamut. I'm sure I'm missing some type of professional that we have in there, but definitely check it out. We have amazing guest speakers and events coming for 2026, which by the time this comes out, I think we will be in. I don't know. I'd have to look at a calendar. But what are we talking about on this episode?
We're going to talk about designing protocols for your practice. So for your health practice.
What is a protocol?
It's a great question. I feel like if you had asked me this 10 years ago, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Because like, you're probably similar. Like I grew up with like SOAP notes and ADIME notes. And like, you're basically just like writing notes for your patients. And it's basically just like, so for dietitians, it's like assessment, like what's going on with the client, diagnosis, what's his nutritional diagnosis, intervention, like what are the steps you're going to take to change that, and then monitor and evaluate. And like you're going to do that in a private practice, but a protocol is going to be more of like a plan, like a sequence plan of how am I going to get this person from point A to point B in the most cohesive way possible with whatever their capacity is. So that's going to be diet, lifestyle, supplements, like all those changes, and understanding what that is. It's never set in stone. Like mine are constantly changing and evolving, but it's just giving this like outline for what the client needs. And like the more you're in practice, the more you kind of like the protocol's similar in a lot of ways, and then just tailored to the person's, like if the person, are they bloated, or is this person having fertility struggles, or is this person having diarrhea, right? Like each person is going to have a little bit different, but it's kind of like walking them through a plan that helps them get from point A to B. So they're not trying to do everything at once, because we know that none of us have capacity for that.
Absolutely not. Do you have a skeleton for your protocol design that you kind of, you know, for that first appointment, or just in general that you send out after every appointment, of like different points that you hit on in your protocol for your clients?
I mean, I feel like in my head, and I do have like a skeleton in Practice Better, but I'm not sending it to them, but like I'm trying to assess where is their starting point and how many foundations and how long do we need to do foundations for. Foundations are like the first part of the protocol, right? Like, are they even chewing their food? Are they sleeping at night? Are they drinking enough water? Are they eating enough fiber? Are they eating enough period? Like the foundations is like where all of them start. It just depends. Like, is my person coming to me already eating 35 grams of fiber and drinking 100 ounces of water? Or are they someone who's like literally forgets that water exists and has never licked a veggie in their life, right? Like, so I think like, yes, like it's like foundations. And then we're talking about like detox work they need. We're talking about working on gut stuff and oh my God, I can't even think straight, can't even talk straight. And then like we're like, it's basically like the 5 R's, right? Like remove, repair, repel, all the things. And so, yes, I feel like it's similar for all. It just depends like how much of each phase does each person need and what are the intricacies depending on nutrient status, depending on symptoms, depending on what we find on lab results, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. So we said that this is a protocol really is a sequence plan designed to move someone from point A to point B, which you said, and it's built around capacity, context, and compliance, which is obviously going to be variable for each person, right? like you said, some people come to you and they have a lot of their shit together, and a lot of people are there are still people who are struggling with hitting fiber or eating breakfast or getting sleep, which led me to kind of think about when you are setting up your foundations for people, there are so many different aspects to this. With like, I break it down kind of for people into nutrition and hydration, exercise and movement, sleep, stress management, and then kind of an other category, digestion. But when you're talking about habits for your clients and things that you're like, okay, this is the hill that I will die on and I will let my Chewini like kick the dirt up on me on, for me, there are a couple of things for me that come to mind, and I'm wondering if for you, you have those couple of things like, hey, like, I don't care if you don't do this, but this you really need to do, kind of thing.
well, now I'm curious what yours are.
Do you want me to say mine first?
Yeah.
Okay, so the top one, which is going to seem so weird for a lot of people, but it has such a domino effect on health, is sleeping with your phone outside of your room and no screens in the bedroom. Like, that's kind of a big clump for me, because I find that when people are on their phones right before bed, or they're bringing their phone into the bedroom, right, we're creating disrupted sleep. Like, it really just is. We're going to bed later, we're delaying falling asleep. And then the big thing that I think a lot of people and even practitioners don't realize, I read this in Dopamine Nation, is when you grab your phone first thing in the morning and it is in your room, several hours before you wake up, your brain is preparing for that dopamine hit of notifications. And when we have disrupted sleep, this is one of the things that I think causes a lot of sleep issues for a lot of people. It creates issues with energy the next day, so we're less active, creates leptin and ghrelin imbalances, right? So now we're having certain cravings, we're not making the best nutritional decisions, or we're less likely to do the things for ourselves. Mood swings are kind of all over the place, and then when we don't make good food choices, our blood sugar's going all over the place. So that is such a huge one for me. Like, it has become the hill that I will die on, is like, get your phone out of your room, right? And I have a couple of people that there have been exceptions, like people who are on call all of the time, or there are exceptions to that, and different modifications that we can make, but that is a big one for me. I would say number 2 is hydration, electrolytes, and minerals. Getting those in is like, if your cells are not hydrated, they're not working properly, right? And if your cells aren't working properly, the rest of your body just is not going to function, right? And it's the same thing with electrolytes and minerals, right? That controls what comes in and out of the cells with sodium and potassium pumps. So hydration, electrolytes, and minerals are number 2. And then number 3 for me is eating enough food. Just so many of my women come to me from a chronic dieting past, or if it fits your macros, and they've been counting macros forever. And there's just a lot of fear around relinquishing that control, which I totally understand. But I feel like if we're not eating enough, our hydration isn't on point, and sleep is not, like that. Those are the 3 biggest things for me. Because I feel like if those 3 things fall into place, movement is better, energy is better, moods are better, periods are, like, everything kind of falls from like those 3 big things for me. So those are mine.
I mean, I feel like mine are not very different. I don't really care about the phone, but the sleep is like important. And I guess if the phone is impacting sleep, of course, but I just like sleep, honestly, eating enough, but eating enough breakfast is usually the first thing I start with people, because most people aren't. And then obviously minerals, because I'm a mineral queen. So I feel like they're not much different. Of like, those are foundations that like we talk about at every first call, because it's usually what people are missing. And it's like, if we just did, and like, obviously I work with a lot of moms too. So like, sometimes we can't fully get 7-9 hours of sleep. So we work on optimizing the sleep that we do get. And then breakfast is like the huge one for most.
I would say for food, if I had to like narrow that down, I would also narrow in on breakfast, because I feel like if breakfast doesn't go well, I don't know about you, but I work with also a lot of like all or nothing people who the pendulum swingeth really hardeth. And so if we don't do well with breakfast, instead of, and this is like where psychological flexibility really comes in, of saying like, okay, I can do better at lunch, or I can have a better snack, or people, it's just human nature that they tend to get the fuckets, where it's, oh, well, throw the day away, as Janie says, right?
Yes.
And instead of that, so I feel like nailing breakfast, and one thing that I've actually been talking to my clients more about is winning the weekend, because I feel like a lot more people, and I know with moms and parents, it's, you're still parenting and you have your kids around all the time, but for most people, I still feel like there's a little more wiggle room on the weekends, because we're not trying to work and take care of kids and do this thing and do that thing and whatever the case is, right? So if we can have better habits on the weekends and not be drinking alcohol or being really sedentary, you know, that is something that I feel like really goes a long way. A lot of my clients have seen a lot of benefit from really honing in on that weekend with their bedtime and their nighttime routine, because they're not rushing around work, right? Like most of my people do. I have a couple of stay-at-home moms, but most of my clients do work. So I think that is something that maybe won't be helpful for everyone, but I've seen it move the needle for a good number of people.
I'm just trying to survive the weekends, honestly. My break is the week. My work is way easier than my kids.
So like, I mean, it's going to differ for everybody, but you know, find 2 days during the week that are like, maybe for someone like you, it might be the days where you don't see clients and your kids are in daycare, right? Like, how can we optimize the days that we have that are a little more, and listen, I know everybody's life is super crazy no matter what, but if we can make the most of those days and create some momentum, I feel like that's really helpful for a lot of people. All right, what else do we want to talk about with protocols here? Pros of using protocols. What do you think? What's next? Do you want to talk about what a protocol isn't?
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, protocol is not just like a supplement stack. It's not just supplements, right? Like, it's not like, here, take these 20 supplements, best of luck, which is honestly the case with some functional practitioners. And we're obviously not anti-supplements. We use them when needed. But it's also like understanding how the diet, lifestyle, supplement narrative, like how that all piles on top of one another, right? The stuff that we were just talking about are the foundations. And then foundational stuff can also be like, is there vitamin D in the trash, right? Like, do we need to onboard some vitamin D because they live in upstate New York? Like, you know, like, it's just like understanding how to layer that all in, and knowing supplements are a supplement. So understanding what that person needs and layering it based on their capacity, because I would even say sometimes it's like kids versus not kids. It's literally just like nervous system capacity. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
like I know moms and non-moms who like equally are stressed, and they might handle it beautifully and the other one's not. They literally need to be like spoon fed one change at a time. And that's not any shade to the client. It's just like their nervous system is just in that fight or flight, and we're working so hard. It's kind of like a catch-22. Like, we need to get their nervous system to calm down, but we also need to nourish them to help their body actually calm down. So it's finding that right rhythm of like, I'm not going to get, like, I'm literally thinking of a client right now. There's like 100 things that I'm like, God, if we could do all of those in the next 6 months, she would be a different person. She can handle one thing at a time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally okay. But it's knowing that as well, of like, the protocol goes only as fast as your client can go, and is only as large and as deep as your client can go, which for all intents and purposes, like, I don't think her stress load or what she has to do is more than my other clients. I just think her nervous system is tapped out. And so that's part of when I'm designing a protocol, I'm also keeping in mind the person of like, she can't handle 5 things. So we're literally going to work on just fiber. And then we're going to work on just breakfast. And then we're just like, it's hard because obviously you know that you can help the person
So
if you
hard.
could do more, but you also know if you do more, you're not going to help them more. So it's having that, what's the word?
Awareness.
Yeah, awareness, or like restraint. Having that restraint, I think, makes a good clinician as well. And knowing that, like, I do have these 100 things that this person needs to work on. And if we focus on this one thing, it'll get them the next step and then the next step. And this particular client went from like a 150 to like a 50 in MSQ in 3 months already. So like, we haven't had to do a lot to see a lot of progress.
Yeah, I always say like, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So
I had a coach used to tell me that.
Yeah, they were probably a Navy SEAL. Anyway. I do give people a lot of information, but I always at the bottom of my notes put like the top 5 things that I would love to see you to do before the next appointment. But if you feel like you only have capacity for the first 1 or 3, like that's also okay too. And kind of like let the person figure, like I'm like start one and then do the other. And sometimes those 5 things are much simpler than other people. Like for some people, it's like sometimes we're tracking food, or sometimes, photos of food. So like making sure that they get me that information, right? Because if I don't know what they're taking in, I can't help them with like, are we eating enough type of situation. Or sometimes it's order the additional testing that I suggested for you, or do the GI map that we have ordered, right? Sometimes it's as simple as that, like just getting that person to move in the right direction. And sometimes it's a lot more intricate. And I would also say, even like in the realm of, eating enough, I have some clients who they're like, I'll eat all the food you want to tell me. And I have another client who I was like, she's been tracking macros for a really long time. And I was like, I get the impression that you probably would benefit from increasing in a slow, methodical way, as opposed to me telling you to just stop tracking and do your best to eat more, right? Like that wasn't going to work for her. And I could tell by her personality. So much of protocol design is really, it's almost like detective work, because you have to know what's going to go well or what won't, right? And it's funny when you said like protocol design is not a supplement stack, because before we mentioned that, we hadn't even said a word about supplements. I think it's also important to note, kind of like I think you were kind of hinting around this, sometimes supplements are part of that like first do thing. Like if you have a vitamin D level of 17, I'm not going to be like, well, let's just focus on minerals and getting sleep. Like, no, that person needs like repletion now, right? Because that's a huge part of probably why they feel the way that they do. And yet we have practitioners out there saying vitamin D doesn't need to be tested.
Bless it.
Stares into the abyss. Death to all of us right now.
It's fine. I was told fasting insulin wasn't medically necessary this week, so it's fine. I'm
Cool.
not mad about it.
It only detects blood sugar issues 10 to 15 years before A1C. But sure, like let's just ignore it. Why don't we?
I can't wait for the test to come back. She finally ordered it, so I can't wait to be like,
Oh,
please tell me why. I just know this client 100% has insulin resistance. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. Actually, that related to that, like if there is, this is where lab work ties into the protocol. So when you're looking at your patient or client, you should be looking at their labs, their symptoms, and then any other pertinent information, their health history, their food intake, whatever, and you're tying that all together. It's probably one of my favorite things of what I do is connecting all the dots.
Yeah.
And understanding why this is all happening, right? Because these clients have gone to their primary and told their labs are normal, or they go to the GI doc and told they have IBS, or they're going to the endocrinologist who tells them that they have who knows what. Like they're going to all these separate people and no one's ever telling them how all of this is connected. And that's really what the protocol kind of does. It ties it all together of like, okay, this person has insulin resistance and this person also has low vitamin D. We also see low B12s and we're also seeing low stomach acid. We're also seeing H. pylori. And now it's all connected and it's understanding how to prioritize what that person needs with all those connections, right? Like insulin resistance is one of the first things I tackle because if blood sugar balance is not working well, then the nutrients that are coming in are likely not going to be as well tolerated. Their energy is not going to be good. So they're not going to be able to keep up with making food and doing the bare minimum. So it's really taking a look at, okay, what are everything that I'm seeing, try to connect those dots and think about what order of operations makes the most sense for this client, right? Like low stomach acid is another thing I address pretty quickly on because we need to be breaking down the food, especially if I'm having them increase food. We need that food to actually be broken down and being like broken into the proper nutrients. I feel like I've gone 10 different directions as my head is floating, but like that's like when we're talking about gathering the information and then setting it into action, it's really trying to prioritize as clinicians, not just their capacity, but like where does this person need to go and in what order, right? Like we just did an episode about parasites. Like if this person comes to you and they've got insulin resistance and low vitamin D, low B12 and 100 other things, you're not going to start with a parasite cleanse. You're going to start with foundations. You're going to make sure you're building them up with a really solid foundation before you dive into whatever comes next, whether it's parasites or H. pylori or dysbiosis or SIBO or anything along those lines. And then I think protocols always need to transition into a supportive phase. A good practitioner friend of mine says a good protocol should always be more supportive than disruptive. It really should be
Yeah, I like that.
helping the body as much as physically possible. So that way the body can handle whatever it is that needs to be taken care of. And the more you get comfortable making protocols, the more you'll understand what that looks like. I've done so many different things over the years, and I've experimented with so many things. And I think that's part of the fun of it for me, is like, what order of operations and what moves the needle the most for people with the least amount of supplements, with the least amount of interventions, is usually what I'm striving for.
Yeah, no, I really like that. What was the saying again? Should be more supportive than disruptive. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. Yeah, I love all of that. And I think the reason that I like protocols too is because I'm having like six thoughts at once also. Someone send help. Predictability and stability for the client so they know what's expected of them. I actually had a client who made, I'll send this to you right now so you can see it. I dropped it in the collaborative.
Oh, that one gave me anxiety.
The color thing?
Oh, it was too much. That
Oh,
gave me
really?
anxiety. Yes. It was
Oh,
too much.
wow. I thought it was so great.
I think it depends on this is where it comes down to the individualization,
Yeah.
right? Like that would have given me anxiety if someone told me to color code my schedule with all of my tasks. Oh my God, I could never.
That's so funny.
But it's like
Yeah.
I see that in my clients. Like I know clients who would love that. They would eat that up. It's really so dependent.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about making a blank slate and telling people, like, if this feels good for you, here's this thing you can use. And if not, like, just forget about it kind of thing. But it does create like clear expectations. And I also feel like it's the other thing that I really like about protocols that we haven't said yet, that is really what protocols are. It's a summary of your entire appointment. So I tell women when they come to me, listen, you are busy taking care of yourself and everybody else in your life. And while you're with me, I take care of you. If there's a link, if there's a product, if there's a podcast, if there's an Instagram post, I am putting it in there for you. And they all come with their pen, and I can see them with their pen and paper. And I'm like, I am never going to tell someone not to write things down and be a participant in their health journey. However, I don't want you stressing about it, right? So this is part of the spiel that I tell people at the very beginning of our very first session so that they understand, oh, when I'm here, I can just listen because I'm going. And then they see it after that first appointment. They're like, oh my God. I mean, I'm sure you're the same way, where people have just been like, I have never received so much detail from one appointment and information and help and support. Like, people are just so sold after that first appointment. If they weren't already sold because they signed up to work with you, I do think that that is really helpful for people so they can be really present in just addressing the questions that you're asking them in that appointment. But yeah, that's why that's one thing that I think we haven't mentioned that is really important. So
I think I maybe mentioned this earlier, is also, I think newer practitioners kind of cling to protocols and feel like they have to stick with it for their client to be successful. And I think as you become more experienced, you'll realize that this is not set in stone. It's just like a guideline. It's literally just like you're seeing all these issues, you're connecting all the dots, and with your clinical experience, this is where you want to take them. And because they're living, breathing humans, who knows what happens, right? Sometimes I see people get so much better that I'm like, okay, like we can kind of like chill and put the brakes on and just really like double down on the foundations and maybe do one or two things on the gut protocol. It really depends. And I think that flexibility also makes you a good practitioner and makes a good protocol, because it's not like you must do X, Y, and Z or you won't see results. And, unfortunately in some scenarios like SIBO, right, you're not going to get away with just the foundations, right? Like there's definitely scenarios where that's not as pertinent, or whatever word I'm looking for, but like
accurate.
I don't know. There's a word and and I think that's maybe helpful to hear too, if you're like a newer practitioner, you're newer to private practice. It's like, I don't view my protocols or even my follow-up notes or my summaries as like set in stone. If it's not working, it's not working. And that's where one-on-one is so beautiful, because you can work with the client and be able to have that live feedback from them and from you. And I tell all my clients, I will never live in your body, so I will never know truly how you feel. So the goal is to get you to know how you feel and totally understand that and reflect it back to me so I can help you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Having that flexibility, sometimes people, like I've had, and I'm sure, again, this is the same for you. You've had people message you saying like, this supplement isn't working for me. This thing is, I think I'm having a reaction, this, that, the third. I'm struggling with this. And it's, you have to be able to be flexible with that person because, again, you're working with a living, breathing human who has a life, who has stressors, who has things ebbing and flowing in their own life, and their capacity is always changing, right? Just because life's. And so having the ability to be a flexible human, in my opinion, is one of the most skillful things you can do for your health, whether it's the financial health of your business, your own personal health, the health of your relationships around you. Because when you have too much rigidity, you are not going to succeed because you are going to be so hell-bent and stuck on this is the plan, this is the thing that I have to do, that you're going to sabotage yourself. So I think,
I don't know if you mean it this way, but this can ring true for that practitioner
yes,
who is rigid and for the client who is rigid. Like it can backfire for both. And I think that it's also like if you are experiencing this, it's easy to fall into that because I think a lot of times when you lack confidence in your ability, it can feel better to rely on a protocol because it feels more stable. But you don't need to. You probably know so much more than you give yourself credit for, and being flexible is going to make you a better provider. And honestly, I don't think most clients are, they're not like printing out the last follow-up, the last summary, last protocol and being like, but you said this. And you're like, yeah, well, I did. And also I'm looking at you right now and you like feel like trash every time you take berberine. Like you're not taking berberine anymore. Like, anyway. So yes, I think that's true. Like true for the client and true practitioner. Like rigidity can really keep both stuck, which is not good for business and not good for retention and what's the word looking for?
Client
referrals
outcomes and yeah, the whole, it's not good for anything. Yeah, we're thriving. So, we got her done. We're wrapping up here at the end. So I think we've hit pretty much on everything. So I will just say I did look at a calendar, and tomorrow, if you're listening to this on a Monday, right when it came out, is going to be our chat with Michelle Shapiro. She's coming to talk about MCAS and histamine. So there is still one day where you can get in on that talk. And here's the really great thing is we never delete our recordings. So if you miss this by a day or two and you're like, shit, I really wanted to catch that talk, you may not have been able to catch it live, but we always keep recordings. We understand that people's lives are busy and they can't always make it, or they have to bounce in and out. So not only will you get access to Michelle's talk, you will get 40 plus other guest speakers, amazing, amazing expert guest speakers that we've had in there. So unconventionalcollaborative.com or at unconventional collaborative on Instagram. And we will see you on the inside. Bye.
Bye.